bad. Let's say they were less good.
My name's Katie.
I'm Garet.
And this is the Bars Ankle High and part 3 of Garet's series on depression. We've gotten real chatty about this. Before we get into it though, because it's the end of June, if you're not yet, make sure you're following us on Instagram. We'll be sharing the link and it will also be in the show notes for this episode. But we
have a big announcement. And we know, so we can rule out it's not that I'm pregnant because we already announced that.
Right, you're not double pregnant.
I'm not double pregnant.
I'm not single pregnant.
You're not single pregnant.
I'm not engaged.
Nope.
But you can nominate us for a People's Choice Podcast Award for the entire month of July, baby. We are in the comedy and mental health categories, so you can nominate us for both of those. You just have to, like I said, it'll be in the show notes. You just follow this link. Mm-hmm. I'll probably create a Bitly link as well.
Billy!
Yep.
I love doing something that annoys her. Just never gets old for me. So funny.
So we'll create that, and you just follow that link. You'll have to register, but it's just like to confirm your email and to make sure that like we're not spamming them with bots. But holy shit, it'd be so cool to win.
Yes.
Garet would like completely screech and turn into a crow and fly away.
Yep.
Like Moira Rose.
Puke rainbows.
Yes. It would be
shit
man,
glitter.
I would just die.
Puke rainbows.
Yeah. Which normally I do just like on holidays.
Uh-huh.
But
I really didn't know where she was going with that.
I was like I meant like the shit glitter thing. It was just from eating too much glitter glue. But this time it'll be like natural.
Just to be clear, I am talking about the shitting of glitter.
Not puking rainbows. I don't do that.
Not the shitter. I was trying to find the glit. No, it just doesn't work. I was trying to combine glitter and shit.
It's like glizzy, but
yeah, but it's not a hot dog. It's just glitter.
I thought
shit.
a glizzy was a type of gun. Like I thought it was like a Glock. I thought it was slang for like a Glock.
Not that I'm aware of, but my understanding is a glizzy is a hot dog.
I mean, I understand it's a hot dog too because I just saw a meme about like Memorial Day weekend and glizzies,
yeah.
And it was a picture of like a chili dog. But like,
you're like, where's the guns?
Yeah, I was like, do I not understand what a glizzy is? And then I was like, probably, but it's not going to stop me from using it in the wrong context all the time.
For further context, please see the episode. Was it Patreon where we talked about running a train? I think you told that story recently on Patreon.
I think it was on Patreon when I ran a train.
You should join our Patreon so you can hear Katie talking about running a train on a buffet. 5 stars.
I stand by it.
What was that one I sent you recently? It was that woman talking about... There was like another phrase that was getting misused. And it was so funny.
I don't know.
I can't remember what she was like God, it's going to make me so mad. And all I could think of was Katie because this lady was just like really confidently beating off. Is that what it was? There was some kind of phrase that this woman was like so confidently using wrong. And somebody was like, I'm sorry, what? Yeah, beating off. And they're like, that's not what that means. So anyway, same thing. So make sure that you run a train on voting for us in the podcast.
Yeah,
awards.
vote for us for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. We'd love to win. We'd love to also, make it through the nominations round.
Yeah. Really just the nominations, like the Academy Awards, like just to be nominated.
But like honestly though.
Yeah.
No,
I'm not kidding when I say that.
Yeah, by all means have your friends nominate us too.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
But yeah, no, it would just be great. So even though it's still June, you can't do it till July 1st. But because this episode comes out June 29th, we don't want to miss you and miss a chance to like get the word out. Yeah. So yeah, do that. Follow the link in the show notes here, or it'll be posted in our Instagram page and a story, and I'll probably have a separate highlight. Yeah. Or it'll probably be I'll put it in the link in our bio. Yeah. So yeah, without further ado, I like doing stuff that annoys you too.
It just makes me think of the Sagoo. So 2 weeks ago, we were talking about like types of depression, symptoms of depression, some bad coping with depression. Last week we talked about like who is impacted by depression and some like coexisting health issues, things that tend to appear with depression. So this week we're going to focus on treating depression, which I kind of went down a rabbit hole of like some new things that are coming out to treat depression that I want to talk about too, which is why we decided to make this its own episode.
Are you going to talk about first the history of treating depression and the invention of the vibrator?
No, but I would love for you to talk to us about that.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like how they were like treating women who had like hysteria with orgasms, basically.
Yes.
I mean,
they also invented the chainsaw to rip open a pelvis for childbirth, so that's a good point. They owed us one. But
yeah, that's true. I feel like ultimately, like treating this, and I'm putting hysteria in quotes. They kind of owed us. They owed us some professional orgasms.
Yes. So if you don't know, it was in, I think, the early 1800s that it was, it had to be later than that.
I have no concept of time when it comes to that.
Hold on, please.
We need the Jeopardy music without getting sued.
It'll just be like our music, but like slow and like, but
it's not that different actually.
It's probably just gonna be like our spooky season, but like without the like.
If you guys are new listeners, I'm gonna talk about this while Katie's Googling. If you're more recent listeners, you missed out on our seasonal theme music that our editor made. We have special Halloween music, which is my favorite thing I've ever heard in my whole goddamn life. And Katie's favorite thing she's ever heard in her whole goddamn life is our Christmas version.
Yes, it is my ringtone currently, and also the sound that I wake up to every day for work. It's my alarm clock noise. And also, if you join Patreon, everybody gets access to those as ringtones. Right. So
yeah, you can download those as ringtones. So join our Patreon.
So in the 1880s, Joseph Mortimer Granville patented the electromechanical vibrator. It was used to treat muscle aches.
That's what I use mine for.
I mean, in a way. And but they started using it to treat melancholia in women and hysteria if they were just like, oh, the husband's reporting that she's being a real bitch. You go to the doctor and you get all vibrated on, and they like just kind of like electroshock your taint.
I mean, in fairness, if I'm in that kind of mood, then that would probably fix it.
Oh, totally. For sure puts me in at least a neutral state.
Yeah. Definitely less mad.
Yeah. Yeah, so they used these vibrators on women to and like there's different descriptions where they've like inserted them into the vaginal cavity or were using them just externally, but either way your G-spot was getting a glizzy, and
they were beating everybody off.
I did it. I'm so proud.
I cannot wait for our editor to hear this episode. Wow,
he's gonna kill me.
So excited. Yeah, I mean, in fairness, it should probably still be a treatment for depression.
I mean, it makes me feel better when I'm feeling a little down.
Tense. A little cranky.
Yeah, just takes the edge off.
My brain immediately went to gold member. Toit. Toit like a toiger.
Shake me from my shin.
I feel like we owe royalties at this point for how many times we quote gold member for whatever reason.
Isn't that weird?
vitamins. So aside from clinical vibrators,
Oh, sorry.
we did warn you at the beginning that
Yeah.
it was going downhill.
Yeah, it's hour 4.5 of recording.
Yeah, we're
basically
almost dead. So one important thing to note is, we did mention, I think a couple episodes now ago, that depression is among the most treatable of mental disorders. But the same treatment that worked for someone is not necessarily going to work for someone else. And if it worked 10 years ago, it might not work for you now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to be open to different types of treatment, different medications, whatever it is. So I was correct in my statement a couple weeks ago. Between 80 and 90% of people with depression eventually respond well to treatment. And almost all patients gain some relief from their symptoms with treatment. But it is important prior to getting diagnosis or treatment that you get a thorough diagnostic evaluation, an interview with your doctor, a physical examination, something like a blood test to make sure that you don't have something like a thyroid problem or a vitamin deficiency, which we mentioned last week, that can cause depression-like symptoms. Part of the evaluation, they're going to identify specific symptoms, explore family medical history, environmental factors. They really want to find out, okay, what's possibly driving these symptoms and what's going to be the best course of action to alleviate some of these symptoms. So one of the things that I read, they said that people don't choose to be depressed, but you do make a choice in how to deal with the depression, which I thought was a really good...
Yeah.
A really good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Because, you can choose to do nothing, but denying that you have a problem is just going to make you feel worse. So if you just take, one step and it feels okay, try it again. And, that's how a lot of people can get through it, because it's a real illness and there's help available, but, you have to take those steps.
Mm-hmm.
I know, personally... I've known people who have dealt with depression who, when they're feeling depressed, kind of lean into it.
Yeah.
So instead of doing things the way I'm kind of thinking of it is you have to participate in your own wellness.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling those things, when I'm feeling like that, maybe a shower would make me feel better. Even though I don't feel like it, maybe going out for a 15-minute walk is going to make me feel better. Maybe,
I saw
cleaning up the area that I'm sitting in, or putting on fresh clothes, those things will make me feel better.
Totally. And that's where that therapy lamp comes in.
Right.
But also I saw something on Instagram, I think it was Elise Myers, it must have been, where she was talking about having real depression and struggling with her depression during the pregnancy that she's currently in. And how she hadn't showered for a full week or something, a really, really long time. And I don't know who suggested it to her, but somebody said, okay, but what if you just put your feet in the tub and turn the water on?
Oh, yeah.
And because the thought of taking a shower was just so overwhelming to her. Yep. So it was oh, I've got to get undressed, and then I've got to shower and wash my hair, and I haven't washed my hair in so long. It's going to be...
hair is really that's such a hard...
Especially when you have curly hair to brush it out and all this other stuff and really get in there.
And the feeling of having wet hair sitting on my neck and getting my clothes wet is... Oh, it's just, especially in the wintertime when it's cold.
It only bothers me in the winter. Ugh. It doesn't bother me any other time. Yeah, I'll go to work with wet hair all the time. I don't care. But it was just an interesting thing where it was okay, it's sort of that thing of okay, just do one small thing, and it's
baby step.
And yeah, and it's you don't have to take a shower, but just get your feet wet. Just get them wet. You don't even have to wash them. Just get them wet. And it made it easier for her, because then, okay, the water is on, she's already partially wet. And so then it's easier when you, like you said, baby steps, just do this one little thing at a time. And, but it's, you kind of do need a lot of times a third person to say, an outside person to say what about this? And, could you try it this way? And because you just can't come up with those solutions on your own a lot of the time.
Or it just feels overwhelming. Like, I know sometimes even if it's like, I don't have the energy to like clean the whole kitchen, I can at least like put the dishes in the sink. And okay, most of these dishes can go into the dishwasher. I can at least put them in the dishwasher. So just taking those like little, I have mail that's accumulating, let me just at least throw out the stuff that I know is junk. Things like that, little things that you know when you do it, it's going to make you feel better.
Yeah.
Like, even if I don't feel like exercising, I know if I actually exercise, even if it's stretching or going for a walk or just like 10 minutes of something, it is going to make me feel better. So sometimes I just have to force myself to do it. Sometimes it's just putting on workout clothes. And then I'm like, well, I already have the clothes on. Or the converse of that is just going out in what I have on.
Yes.
I'm just going to go for a walk in what I'm wearing because getting changed is like too much for me right now.
That's a big one for me is like just, I'm in jeans and I'm going to be sweaty and gross, but like whatever. At least I have a bra on, which is like to me the biggest thing.
Yes.
Getting a fucking sports bra on, like,
yes.
God.
Pulling leggings up that are like tight. Ugh. And I'm more likely to force myself to take a shower if I'm sweaty.
Same. Yeah.
Than if I'm just like, because then I'm like, it's that whole, well, if I take a shower, I want to like sweat before I take a shower. So then I got to exercise. So then I'm like saving that whole thing and then it makes that other thing easier too.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like participate in that with yourself. And even if like talking to your doctor is your first step or talking to your mental health professional is your first step, like do those other things and participate in making yourself feel better. So from a medication standpoint, brain chemistry can be a major factor in whether or not someone is experiencing a depressive episode, the type of depressive episode they're experiencing, and it can factor into treatment because that's going to impact what's going to be the first step in making you feel better. So antidepressants can be prescribed to help modify your brain chemistry. The medications are not sedatives, uppers, tranquilizers. They're not habit forming. They have no stimulant effect. And generally, people see improvement within a week or two of use. Sometimes it takes longer, 2 or 3 months. But usually, if you're not experiencing any improvement after several weeks, they can talk about altering the dosage or maybe looking at a different type of medication. There are other like psychotropic medications that can be helpful. So it's going to be one of those things where it's kind of trial and error to see what's going to work best for you. Usually psychiatrists will recommend taking a medication for 6 months or more after your symptoms have improved. So if you're taking it and it's working, take it for at least 6 months after it feels like it's working. Just try and keep,
which is hard to do.
Yes. And I think a lot of people fall into that. I feel better, so I don't need it. Like I halved my dose in like March or April. I'm like, okay, like I've gotten through what I know would be the worst of it if I wasn't medicated. Let me drop down because I don't think I need that high a dose in the summertime. Because normally I would not be medicated at all in the summertime, but I also am like, I know that I'm going through a period of time that would normally be making me super anxious, which would be making me feel depressed. So I'm going to stay on it because I want to get myself through postpartum in one piece. So I'm going to stay on it. I'll probably go back up to a higher dose in the wintertime or in the fall, and then see how I feel next summer. So it's totally like doing what works for you, but that'll be a conversation that I have with my therapist where I'm like, okay, this is how I'm feeling and thinking and
what works for you now, not what you think should be working for you necessarily, or where like just kind of part of any of this mental health stuff is like learning how to accept yourself where you are. And, like, meet yourself where you are.
Right. Oh, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Meeting yourself where you are.
Yeah.
It's extremely common to need to try more than one antidepressant. So many people that have depression are not going to get relief from the first medication they try. They don't even really know why. I mean, it's probably the brain chemistry stuff that we were talking about last week. last week.
Mm-hmm.
But so, I mean, it says up to 50% of people with major depression don't improve with their initial treatment. So you really have to like commit to being open to more than one type.
Which I also think is reasonable to a good opportunity to consider whether or not you're working well with your clinician,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're having trouble either discussing whether it's working or not, or you're having trouble accepting what they're telling you,
Mm-hmm. Or if they're not wanting to go through the trial and error process.
right, then it's worth, if you can, seeing if you can get in with a different medical provider so that you can, get the care that you need, but also feel comfortable with the care that you're getting.
Yes.
And
comfortable communicating that
mm-hmm.
too. Yeah. They do refer to depression that doesn't improve after 6 weeks of treatment as treatment-resistant depression. And they do think that genes are strongly involved to having that treatment resistance. So it's just another situation of maybe changing or adding medication. There are newer antidepressants called serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, so SNRIs. So it's kind of combining targeting the serotonin and the norepinephrine. So something like Effexor would be the over-the-counter name.
I've heard of that.
And I think so. Another one that also targets norepinephrine and serotonin, but I think it's an older type of antidepressant, is tricyclic antidepressants, TCAs. But they also involve the effect of influencing histamine and acetylcholine. And there's more side effects like dry mouth, blurry vision, constipation. SSRIs do not use those histamine and something choline, and don't have a lot of the side effects. They're also safer from a cardiovascular standpoint. So doctors are more likely to go with an SSRI first. So there's also psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and they have a saying, no pills without skills. So they want you to, if you're taking medication, to also be going to therapy so that you're approaching it from a more whole perspective.
That's a good, rule of thumb.
That's always been my thing, is like, for a long time, I didn't want to medicate for my anxiety because my feeling was like, okay, I have this for my whole life. Like, ultimately, the most effective thing is going to be like how I cope with it as opposed to a medication, which, hindsight, not entirely true. Because if I can't ever get ahead of it, it's going to be really hard to cope with it.
Yes.
So it is worth doing both. Cognitive behavioral therapy, especially for like mild depression, that may be all you need, is just therapy.
Mm-hmm.
If you have moderate to severe depression, they usually will recommend doing medication and therapy together. And we've talked about it before, but, cognitive behavioral therapy is a form of therapy where you're focusing on problem solving in the present. So helping you to like recognize disordered thinking or negative thinking and trying to change those thoughts and behaviors in a more positive, effective way for yourself. Depending on the severity of the depression, they're saying it can take longer than medication. So 10 to 15 sessions can make a significant improvement, but obviously that's going to be longer than 1 to 2 weeks for medication.
Right. Yeah. And also, again, with insurance,
do you have co-pays? Is it covered at all?
Yeah.
Can you find someone? So, I mean,
which, like, I'm in that find someone boat right now.
Yes, Katie has been thrust into that. How do I find someone right now?
In the middle of my move, I got a phone call that my therapist was leaving private practice and I had to find somebody new.
Sweet Jesus. That was one of those things. She texted me that and I was like, wow, I would definitely be having a meltdown right now.
And that was like, that was like the fourth thing that went wrong that week. But I was like, kind of radio silent just because I was doing all this other shit. But I was like,
you just get to the point where there's just like so many things that you can't even
like, it was the thing that happened, and I like chuckled about it because I was like, that's fucking crazy. Garet will love this.
It's that the guy from The Simpsons, the kid from The Simpsons, sitting on the bus.
I'm in danger.
Yes. Yeah.
And then he rolls down the hill.
Yes.
To get away.
Yeah.
Ralphie.
It is really hard. I really lucked out when I found my therapist. But it is really hard. I think especially, like, it's always been hard, but post-pandemic, I feel like the demand is just like super high right now.
Mm-hmm. And I think
really hard.
I could be talking out my ass here. I have no data to support this statement.
Cool.
But I'm betting that a lot of employers, at least obviously in the US, have changed their benefits package to emphasize mental health since the pandemic, meaning that more people do have it covered, at least to an extent. Therefore, there's more access, and thus more competition.
And I mean, I don't want to turn this into like a capitalistic thing, and I actually removed it from my research because I just got really fucking salty when I read it. But they were talking about like ultimately the impact that depression has on like the capitalist system and productivity, and how many work days are lost due to either decreased productivity because of depression or like missed days of work.
Which is like the bullshit that they do with like obesity, where it's like the only way that we can get people to the only way we can get corporations and employers to care about it is if we say, like, you're losing this many man hours based on depression, or you
this much you've lost this many trillions of dollars in
right
this year's span.
So you have to care about it. Where it's like, you know, it. I think statements like that add to the stigma around depression.
Totally.
Just like they add to a stigma around obesity. Like, I'm not a less productive worker because I'm overweight. I'm not a less productive worker because I've struggled with PTSD and depression and anxiety. That you haven't lost any fucking money because of me.
Yeah.
And to put everybody with that diagnosis into this group of you're an expense, not an asset.
Oh yeah.
Then it because it is a spectrum. Yep. If you heard my song last week,
it was great. It was really great.
I will be, just like we need you guys to nominate us for the People's Choice Podcast Awards, I do expect to be nominated for a Grammy for that.
Can't wait. Can't wait to wear my ragtag champion t-shirt to the Grammys. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can be one of my backup singers with your version of My Hot Dogs Go On.
Yeah.
For the Glizzies.
Yeah, that's perfect. Look at full circle. Full circle.
But, you know, you have this perpetual stigmatizing of a group because it's like, no, I'm not like, you know, no, I show up to work. I can go to work and do fine. Yes, I would feel better if I took a day off, but like, I have PTO. So you're not actually losing anything from me. So like,
also,
fuck off.
How many lunch breaks have people worked through? And
I worked through almost every single one of my lunch breaks.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and like...
And I'd never take my unpaid breaks.
Yeah. And if you average it out, so really, how much free labor have you got? How many times have I stayed late to finish something?
During the pandemic, how many times I worked till like 7?
Yep.
And I'm ineligible for overtime, so...
Yep. So it's... And the fact that last time I checked, you're employing people, not machines. So it's kind of like when you have somebody working in a manufacturing setting that winds up with a repetitive motion...
injury,
workers' comp claim,
because
they
get fought on it because you have to prove that's
it's the nature of the job, and machines may be designed to do that, but human
you know what though
are not.
Your washing machine is designed to wash your clothes, and yet you might still have to replace a belt or a rotator or, you know, some washer or something in there. You still have to replace the parts of the machine from overuse and from just general use.
Yeah.
So, you know, humans are no different. And the fact that our parts, the, you know, mechanisms of our machinery involve a brain and hormones, well, too fucking bad. Yeah. Until you can figure out a way to do my job, which like GPT is not doing my job too well right now. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. They're getting there, but they're still not going to be able to have that argument. And, you know, it's not going to get there, guys.
No. And certainly not anytime soon.
Not within our lifetime or Blueberry's lifetime, I don't think.
So, it's people are human beings, and just treat them like human beings, not like machines. So it is something that I decided to leave out because I read it and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then immediately got mad about it. And I was like, I'm not
reasonable.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to include that. Another therapy for depression.
Is it listening to this podcast?
Yes. Is electroconvulsive therapy.
What? They still do that?
Oh, yeah. So, it's
not on a vagina?
No, to your head. It's been most commonly reserved for patients with like really severe depression who have not responded to other treatments.
Wow. Hopefully it's like not barbaric anymore.
No, you're under anesthesia.
Oh, no.
So
shit.
they do a brief electrical stimulation to the brain while you're out, and you typically receive it 2 to 3 times a week for a total of 6 to 12 treatments. And you're, managed under a medical professional, psychiatrist, and anesthesiologist.
So do you have like an open skull and they just go in there, or do they like place nodes?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't check to see the actual
because like I'm just thinking like if you have to have that like 2 or 3 times a week,
right? It would burn you, I think, if it wasn't like. Which is probably why you're under the supervision of like multiple.
No, I mean I understand why it's not constant. I'm just saying like they're not gonna like take your head plate off 3 times a week and put it back on. Like it's not a hinge door.
Yeah, no, I think it's all external.
Just put hinges on your skull. Knock knock. Who's there? What's the password?
Oh my god. We're struggling. And they've used this since the 40s, and there's been a ton of like research and there's been improvements, and it's like actually very effective.
Huh.
But I think like because the way it's been
there's
represented,
such
like,
a bad
right.
I mean,
movies and TV that it's really got this like stigma.
Well, I mean, it's not even movies and TV. Like all of those asylums are haunted because they did this shit to people. Like,
and that was also like now they're like you're under general anesthesia, so you're not like
it's not like the pickaxe
raw dogging
the lobotomy,
right?
People
like in Wolf Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Mm-hmm.
Like Nurse Ratched is not administering these.
Did you watch that series on Netflix?
What series? Oh,
Ratched.
Yes. Like half of it.
I
didn't finish it.
I finished it.
Something about bad attention span.
That sounds made up.
That's not real.
You don't look like you have a bad attention span.
No, I have a great ability to focus.
Like right now.
Like right now. So obviously I'm kind of giving this section with like an eye roll because we've talked about this before and it comes up in every motherfucking episode that we do for everything. But there are like self-helpy type things that you can do to cope with depression.
Is it essential oils?
No. None of these are a cure, obviously. Getting enough sleep, keeping on a consistent sleep schedule, eating a healthy diet, avoiding alcohol because it is a depressant.
And we discussed during our sleep episode how alcohol use can fuck with your sleep cycle.
Yes, and how you can also, similar to like the chronic pain, the relationship between poor sleep and depression, it turns into a chicken and egg. And it's like, am I depressed because I'm not sleeping? Am I sleeping because I'm depressed? Not sleeping because I'm depressed.
Yeah.
So.
Right, yeah, I feel like the stay on a sleep schedule is like easy for you to say, not depressed person, like.
Kind of like when they're like, I remember telling the OB's office that I was having really bad insomnia. And they were like, are you just anxious? I was like, no, I can't sleep. I go to bed and I stare at the ceiling. I can't sleep. I was
like
also
the sleep clinic wanting to refer me to an insomnia therapist. And I was like, it's like I just wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm awake. Like it's not like I'm tossing and turning because I'm worried about things.
Right.
Like, but like they hear that I had trauma in the past and they're like, well, it must be that. And I'm like, okay, but I'm 5 years out. So like,
well, and that's what I was like, no, I'm taking Zoloft. Like, I'm not struggling with anxious thoughts right now. I'm not waking up thinking.
Right. No, I just wake up.
I just can't sleep. Like, I'm just laying there wide awake, even if I'm tired. So yeah, it was, Unisom has been, a real, I can't even jokingly be like a real lifesaver. It's legitimately been a lifesaver because I can sleep.
Yeah, you were, not present in December.
No, first trimester was real fucking hard. Turns out third trimester is also real fucking hard, but I also can't bend over. And when I do, I almost pass out.
Although now you are visibly pregnant, so there's no
Yes.
hiding or denying.
No.
So, yeah.
And I can wear maternity clothes, which makes it less of a... I'm not, like, struggling as much as I was.
Yeah.
I was having a very hard time, like, prior to being, like, visibly pregnant, and, like, before people knew, where I was just, like, experiencing all of the symptoms, but I just had to, like, go ahead and shut up about it.
Mm.
And it was really hard. As I'm hiccuping for no reason. It was really hard. So, yeah, I think sleep is just, like, a huge thing. And obviously, like... when you're depressed, like, your sleep is really impacted. You're sleeping too much, you're tired all the time, or you're not sleeping at all.
Mm-hmm.
So a good sleep schedule. You can see Harvard's hygiene tips if you need some advice.
I believe that's episode 17 or 18.
Yeah, it's called Eat Dick Harvard. That's the episode that I'm referring to.
I stand by it, but whatever. I still play my Candy Crush before I go to bed.
And as we spoke about in our first depression episode, avoiding alcohol because that is a depressant. Those things can help reduce the symptoms of depression. Another huge one that they mention is exercise because it does improve your mood and it helps stimulate like natural compounds in the body that can make you feel better.
Yeah, endorphins make you happy, and happy people just don't shoot their husbands.
Yes.
That's what Elle Woods taught us.
Yes. There was a study done in 2017 in the American Journal of Psychiatry that found that even 1 hour of physical activity each week, so even if you were just doing like 10 minutes a day, was associated with a 12% lower incidence of depression.
Wow.
Which is significant.
10 minutes a day is easy. That's good.
Right. Totally manageable amount.
Yeah.
And like, you know that doing 10 minutes of anything is not going to hurt you. Like, 10 minutes of walking can only benefit you. Plus, we talked about, like, in other episodes, the green time.
Yeah.
Just being outside. So even if you're just outside stretching, going for a 10-minute walk, you don't have to be sweating. You don't have to be, like, injuring yourself. Just doing it is good for your mental health. It's good for your physical health. Like, it's so beneficial for people. Now I want to talk about some, like, new alternative treatments.
Is this essential oils?
No.
Okay.
This is all psychedelics.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, ketamine.
Ketamine's a psychedelic?
No, but it's, like, one of these new...
like, boy, do I not understand drugs. These people are dying from tripping balls.
So there was a new study that suggests that for some patients, the anesthetic ketamine is a really promising alternative to the electroconvulsive therapy, which is currently one of the like quickest, most effective therapies for people with that treatment-resistant depression. So there was a study that the New York Times talked about, and it's the largest head-to-head comparison that they've done of the two treatments. So patients who don't respond to antidepressants, which is about a third, which we talked about before, of clinically depressed patients, have a condition called treatment-resistant depression. So it limits your options for treatment. But as we know, it's like a treatable thing. So it is really about finding the right treatment. So doctors typically recommend up to 12 sessions of the electroconvulsive therapy, which has long established history of improving these symptoms.
That is nuts. I still can't get over that.
It's tainted by the stigma of historical misuse and frightening Hollywood images of people strapped to tables writhing in agony.
Well, yeah. I mean,
so now,
that's how they did it before we had anesthetics. Right.
So now it's safer. It's
like they're like, Hollywood really exploited it. Okay.
Except so did the medical community.
Yeah, based on all of these medical journals from the 1800s
Yeah.
where they did that.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Along with like waterboarding people.
Yeah, right. Jesus.
So now they're saying it's done under general anesthesia and you know, medical guidance is much safer, very effective. But it's still like very underutilized because of all of these stigmas.
I mean, I think like I was just trying to wonder like what would I do if my doctor said to me, or like what would PK do if my doctor said to me, you should have this electrostimulus therapy in your brain to cure whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversation that would be between me and PK of like, will I have personality changes? Like I'm sure that consent for that is crazy.
Oh yeah.
The informed consent. And like the concern of like, well shit, like the risk of going under surgery, you know, to have a, you know, tumor removed is that they don't get all the tumor.
Right.
The risk of this is that I come out a different person.
Brain is
right.
damaged or something. Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, is that something that my partner is willing to risk?
That's true.
And, you know, so yeah, but yeah, as you were talking about that, that's what I was thinking of like, oh, I don't know, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
it's wild.
That's fucking scary.
But also, like, is the alternative that I'm going to feel like harming myself or dying by suicide? So,
yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
I'm sure, like, if you're really...
Yeah, I guess, like, at a certain point, you're like, well, fuck, like, my
well.
current personality's not doing it, so shit.
Yeah. So there was a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, I want to say back in December. It found that ketamine, when administered intravenously, was at least as effective as the ECT in patients with the treatment-resistant depression who don't have psychosis. So if you have psychosis...
Psychosis being the hallucinations?
Yeah, like if you're experiencing psychosis, that ketamine is like the worst thing.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So for people that are just...
But like, so like...
looking at this...
Like depression, not like bipolar depression
right,
or like...
Right.
Okay.
So... Let's see. Some of this is like, I just don't even need to be relaying. A small number of patients in both groups, so the ECT and the ketamine, under 33% went into remission, meaning they only had mild depressive symptoms.
Under 33%.
Under 33%
went into remission.
Oh, a small number of patients in both groups went into remission.
So they were cured.
This suggests that additional treatments would be needed in order for the patients to maintain relief. So they're saying, like, they're probably going to need an extended period of treatment.
Okay.
But that it was still effective. Continued treatment comes with additional risks for ketamine. Longer treatment increases the likelihood of both drug dependence and cognitive adverse effects, including dissociation, paranoia, and other psychotic symptoms.
Those are big ones.
So there's some drawbacks.
But what if you just use this essential oil with it?
What if you just put lavender oil under your tongue?
What if?
There's also... there was a study published in August 2020 that found a strong connection between gut health and mental well-being.
I remember hearing about that study.
Yeah. Noting that depression is strongly associated with a gut imbalance. So a varied diet, including probiotics and prebiotics, may play a role in managing depression, although they need to do more research. Magnets. You know that Insane Clown Posse song, Magnets?
No.
Okay, well, the hook is like, magnets, how do they work? I can't believe
Does it go just like that?
Yes.
Like they just speak it?
Hold on. I can't believe you haven't heard of this.
No.
I need the lyrics now.
Am I going to be a juggalo at the age of 35?
Ocean spanning beyond my sight and a million stars way above 'em at night. We don't have to be high to look in the sky and know that a miracle opened wide. Look at the mountains, trees, the seven seas, and everything chilling underwater, please. Hot lava, snow, rain, and fog, long-necked giraffes, and pet cat and dog. And I've seen... I'm going to skip that part because that's not as good. This is really like... Where's the magnets? Where's the part where they talk about... Water, fire, air, and dirt, fucking madness. How do they work? And I don't want to talk to a scientist. Y'all motherfuckers lying and getting me pissed.
I'm sorry. Air, fire, water, and dirt, fucking madness?
Yeah.
Not magnets.
No, there's a part where they talk about magnets, too.
Okay.
No, because the song's called... Oh, it's called Miracles. I thought it was called Magnets. Wait, hold on. There's got to be magnets in here.
There's a magnet version on the fucking radio, like your hot dogs will go on.
Oh, yeah. No, there is a line. There is a line. Oh, the other thing said it was madness. It's magnets.
Oh, okay.
Music is a lot like love. It's a feeling. And it fills the room from floor to ceiling. I see miracles all around me. Stop and look around. It's astounding. Water, fire, air, and dirt. Fucking magnets. How do they work? And I don't want to talk to a scientist. Y'all motherfuckers lying and getting me pissed. There's another part I gotta read. And I love my mom for giving me this time on this planet. Taking nothing for granted. I seen a caterpillar turn into a butterfly. Miracles ain't nothing to lie. So anyway,
that was our Sagoo into Insane Cloud posse.
Yeah. So anyway, magnetic pulses are one of the newest ways to treat depression. The pulses go through a coil placed against your head. And they call this repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation. You don't need anesthesia and all you feel is like a slight tapping. It says it lasts 30 to 60 minutes. They may prescribe 20 or more sessions over a 4 to 6 week period. And it's, again, for people who don't respond to...
Isn't that Havana syndrome? Isn't that what they thought the Russians were doing?
It was like a sound, like a frequency of sound that they couldn't hear that was like making people...
Sounds the same. Maybe they just had magnets in their pillows at their hotel rooms.
Magnets, how do they work? So now we have psychedelics.
Okay.
So drugs like psilocybin and MDMA can alter individual brain cells and can help rewire the brain by generating new connections between neurons. So it can offer a new way to treat like a range of different disorders, from depression to chronic pain. There's like a whole bunch of things. So
this is like the microdosing trend.
Yeah.
Then.
Yep.
Okay.
So they did a study of mice that found that psilocybin altered dendrites, which is the branch-like structure that extends from a nerve cell and receives input from other cells.
Okay.
So dendrites form connections through small protrusions known as dendritic spines.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question mark after that.
Known as dendritic spines.
Yeah.
Affirmative.
And in mice that got the psilocybin, the size and number of those spines increased about 10%, which allowed cells to form new connections. When we give mice a single dose of psilocybin, we can see those new connections form within a day. This is one of the researchers. And they can last for more than a month, which is the equivalent of many months in a human. So those new connections and that rewiring increases like your brain plasticity, which allows you to like learn and adapt. And the psychedelics, they're saying, kind of elevates that plasticity. So brain plasticity may explain why a single dose of a psychedelic drug can have long-lasting impacts on disorders like anxiety, depression, and PTSD. They're saying it can be months or years. So those long-term effects have been shown, including psilocybin, LSD, DMT, which is ayahuasca, in contrast, where most, like, you know, antidepressants, you need to be taking them every day. Obviously, some of the drawbacks would be nausea or upsetting or unpleasant or frightening hallucinations.
Tripping balls.
And they're saying, so they said it can be, like, very overwhelming for people. So a lot of times they said, like...
So you will trip.
Yes.
During this treatment. Okay.
Yeah. It is still, like, even though it's done in a lab, it is still a psychedelic experience. And they said, like, they try and, like, make sure people are well prepared, but there's a lot of people that still have, like, mixed feelings after. And they said there would be people who will, like, have this trip and they'll be like, wow, this was amazing. It was just, like, such a great experience. And, like, okay, well, do you want to come back next week for another section? And they're like, no, that's okay. No, thanks. So I think it's just, like, a very intense thing for people to experience.
And you're supposed to come back for multiple sessions? Or...
Well, they're saying just one
okay.
can have a major impact on your brain plasticity, and it can, like, positively improve for, like, years.
Okay.
Months or years.
So you don't have to have more than one treatment
No,
necessarily.
it's not like the ketamine or the ECT where you're going for, like, a prescribed number of sessions.
It's interesting. This was a study, though?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting that
it was a study of mice.
So then how were they giving an opinion on whether they wanted to come back?
Because people, they are doing it on people.
Okay.
They were referencing a study that was done on mice. I don't think it's, like, an FDA accepted
like the
thing
secret
yet.
of the NIM. No thanks, I'm good.
I feel like I'm tripping balls when I watch that movie.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
I loved that movie as a kid.
Me too. It's just, like, very...
Yeah, especially when he's in the cage trying to get out. Yeah.
Every bit of that movie is intense.
The Crow is great. You're that
Crow. The animation, I do love The Crow. The animation's intense. The fucking old mouse with the... It's just kind of a scary movie.
Oh, yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
That could be one of our viewing parties. The Secret of Nim. Oh my god, you just got so excited. Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a billion years.
Me neither. I was reading about it recently because somebody had not heard of it. And I was like, you haven't seen The Secret of Nim? And then I start reading it and they're like, you sound like a lunatic.
I mean, it's dark, but, like, it was a good... Man, like, we watched the fuck out of that VHS.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I watched that a lot. But yeah, that movie makes me feel like I'm
makes
tripping
more
balls.
sense. It wasn't the mice saying, no, I only need the one treatment. Thank
were
you.
not giving the feedback. It was definitely the people who were doing it.
But the people weren't a part of a study.
No, they were referencing a study of mice, but then they were also talking about people who have used these psychedelics.
Okay, because I was just gonna say if the people were also a part of a study, that they gave them the option to come back or not is interesting.
Yeah.
As far as studies go, because, like, you want to control for things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I personally have never done psychedelics.
Me neither.
I've been offered shrooms numerous times, and I was always so afraid that I would have a bad trip that I felt like I would give myself a bad trip by being afraid of having a bad trip. So
that's fair.
I just felt like I was too high strung for it. So I've just always avoided psychedelics.
I've never been offered, and I think that says enough about my personality.
They're like, you know what? I just don't think you're a good fit.
I don't know that we want you to be that way.
That's just a lot, I think, for you. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that's not a good idea. No, I actually was in a relationship with somebody who definitely we had conversations about how they had a, like, polysubstance abuse issue.
Yes.
And
refer back to episode 43.
Yeah. And at one point, he looked me dead in my face and was like, oh, we should do shrooms. And I was like, have you not heard anything that we have just... What?
It's like, that's when I get all of my good check ideas.
Yeah. I'll finally be able to think of a way to use a bank if I do shrooms. So, you know,
he's like watching that movie with Jesse Eisenberg where they, like, rob a bank. And they're like...
Oh, that, yeah. Now You See Me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
He's like, that's it.
I've got it. I figured it out.
It's like that, but also Ocean's 11. Hear me out.
So what we have to do is both take shrooms. Yeah, no, I just felt like I was a bad... And, like, even in a clinical setting, like, you have to think about the fact, like, once they give you a hit of MDMA, like, you're just riding it out. Like, That's what freaks me out.
Yeah.
If I drink too much, like, okay, I can lay down and kind of sleep it off. If I smoke too much weed, I can lay down, sleep it off. If I do too much MDMA, I'm going to freak out for like fucking 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of scares me a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the people in this room have all been in a place where you drink too much and yak and whatever. And so it sucks. I mean, but you get it out of you. And, you know, that first time that happens, though, you didn't know what to expect and what was going on. So it's a similar thing.
Would you be more likely to do electroconvulsive therapy or psychedelics?
I would rather do psychedelics.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I feel like I'd rather do shrooms specifically.
I don't know that I have a preference.
Did you ever see Midsummer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't know why, other than I must have just been bored as fuck during the pandemic.
I loved that movie.
I didn't mind it as a person who hates scary movies. I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't what I was expecting.
I don't think anybody was expecting any of that movie.
Because, like, by the time I watched it, it was like, it had been out for a while. And so what I had heard about it was all this...
Like, very divisive.
Well, not divisive, but like... Oh, it's like a horror flick, but like not. And so, like, it was these, like, almost nondescript explanations. And so, like, really all I knew was that the majority of it happens in daylight. And I was like, okay, I can handle daylight.
Yes, same.
But then also, it had these elements like the, like human centipede type things.
Yep.
Where people are like sewn together. And so that was like like that was the part of it where I was like, what the fuck?
You're like, it can't be bad when it's
like a foot's coming out of the dirt.
Daytime and there's flowers everywhere.
Yeah, and it was, but I found it very interesting in the like love bombing that the cult does to like get her on their side. Like that was a very interesting kind of like study into something without really having much of a language to share.
Yeah.
Between the main character and the rest of the cult members. So I thought that was very interesting. Because I find cults fascinating. I mean, I think it's just, I could learn about them all day. But yeah, I guess, were they taking things in Midsummer?
Yeah.
Oh, I might have missed that.
Well, like they did at the beginning.
Oh, right.
You know, they were in the field.
The friends
and they did shrooms.
Yeah.
And then I believe there was something in the tea that they were giving everybody. There was like that thing that they were serving everybody every day. And I think that was spiked.
Yeah, I missed it. It was too subtle for me.
So that was our 3, what was only supposed to be 1 and turned into 3 parts on depression.
Good job. That was a lot of research.
It was. I was really having a hard time yesterday. I wonder if the mic just picked up the growl my stomach did.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I was on the struggle bus yesterday, trying to. It's like I would think I was done. I'd be like, okay, this is good. Okay, and I'd be like reading back through. I'm like, no, there's a hole.
And another thing, yeah.
Right, and then I'm like going and I'm researching. I'm like, okay, I fill in that gap, and then I would like keep reading through. I'm like, no, another hole. And then it's like you just keep filling stuff in. Then I was like, oh my god, this is so many pages. Mm-hmm. So that's why I tried to give you the heads up that it was definitely gonna be more than 1.
No, that's good.
I was expecting 3.
Right. So, yeah, no, you nailed it.
Nice.
Next Thursday we'll have a whole new topic.
I swear we're done with depression.
Yes.
Oh no, that's a lie. We're gonna be doing postpartum depression at some point soon.
Mm-hmm.
Very soon. Oh my god. Some point very soon we'll be doing...
feed your baby.
There's a protest happening in my abdomen.
Yeah, in a couple weeks, I think.
Yeah,
that's coming up
on the horizon.
But no, I think next week we're doing or I'm doing hormones, but like how hormones dictate your diet and all that stuff. And yeah. So
tune in next week. And make sure you're keeping an eye on our Instagram so that you can get the deets on voting for us in the People's Podcast Awards?
People's Choice Podcast Awards.
There we go. People's Choice Podcast Awards.
Yep. There's going to be a link in the show notes for this episode. But it'll also be on our Instagram. Make sure you're following us. We're at The Bar is Ankle High. We also do weekly episode title polls.
They're great.
Contests. Yeah. So if you guess the name of that week's episode correctly, you'll be entered into a drawing for a logo sticker and maybe some other goodies if you behave. You can join our Patreon at patreon.com/The Bar is Ankle High. We have 3 tiers you can join at. $2 toe rings get monthly horoscopes that are fake. $5 anklets get the horoscopes and bi-weekly Dysfunction Junction bonus episodes. And $10 Limbo Champions get those benefits plus ad-free episodes every week, and they get added to our close friends list on Instagram. So you can go to patreon.com/The Bar is Ankle High to join there. And we have merch at bit.ly/ankle high merch.
Billy!
There you go.
Oh, God. It's so funny.
Is it? Yeah, there it is. So, but yeah, that's all we have. And yeah, please nominate us for, a People's Choice Podcast Award in the comedy or mental health category, or both, or some other category you want to see us in. Starting July 1st, you can nominate us. And get your friends to nominate us, just share it far and wide. Yeah. We'd love to be nominated and holy shit, maybe win.
Puke rainbows and chick litter, as previously established.
Mm-hmm.
Which apparently Katie does sometimes, so that was news to everybody.
Well, you eat a glitter crayon and let me know what happens then.
I will stick to my hand sanitizer, thank you very much.
But in the meantime, enjoy your glizzies and
eat your shrooms and take your supervised doses of MDMA.
Because the bar is ankle high.
Bye.
Bye.